Now listen. You may have heard these words before, but I'll teach you what they really mean. Go beyond! Plus!
Luca is the coolest 4-star in the goddamn game. Plus Ultra! My daughter's sleep again. I can't get as live as I want to. Oh, I love me a Fist character, bro. You know how Hazel kicked the dust off motherfucking shoulders in Genshin? My boy Luca is in here. He, instead of kicking the dust off their shoulders, he knocking their head clean off their motherfucking shoulders, bro. Guys, it's so satisfying. I'm not gonna lie to you. Break effect is where it is because you get to break your fist off in their ass. You know what I'm saying? All right, there's one way to play Luca and one way only, and that's break effect Luca. No, I'm just kidding. Speaking of which, I'm gonna make another guide. I need to calm myself. I'm on a high, bro. Like when I made those edits, bro, I was so hyped watching them, guys. This is just a bit of a banter, man. I was so hyped watching All Might's voice or listening to All Might's voice as he loads up that punch, bro, like Vi from League of Legends. Oh, I know, man. My energy is contagious, bro. Y'all can't lie. I got the most contagious energy in the community. All right, don't be trying to cap. There's nobody else with my energy. Anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed making it because it was really cool. Let's go ahead and get into Luca. This is one of the most free-to-play, friendly 4-star characters in the game. He might be the most friendly like free-to-play 4-star character. People have been saying he's expensive. Bro, you literally don't even need a single Eidolon for this break effect build to work. I'm not kidding. It is so insanely absurdly broken because it's the bleed effect, which is the strongest dot in the game upon breaking shields against elites and bosses. The shit is just phenomenal. The scaling on it is nuts. So there's one way to play it. And then there's the 5-star Nihility light cone, which was revealed by Hoyoverse. But this one is really all you need. It increases his break effect damage while also increasing his dot damage, which is phenomenal. And his dot does scale off of this bad boy right here, so long as they are affected by a shock or wind shear dot. So if they're not affected by that, then unfortunately, he's not gonna get that damage bonus. What's crazy is I believe in the footage that I showed, I don't think they were affected by it because I was trying to demonstrate just his one-on-one performance. Which, by the way, those team comps you've seen, I'm not going to say those are ideal. It was just the only way I could really showcase to you guys based off of the resources I had available, how his break effect performs. Now, with regards to his traces, things can get a bit tricky because obviously, ideally, you'd want to run him break effect all the time. But the sad reality is not every scenario in the MLC is going to enable you to run break effect Luca. In fact, there's a lot of scenarios that are going to be more inclined for you to run regular Luca as opposed to break effect Luca. But I will say, anytime you see anybody weak to the physical element, break effect 110% is better than everything else against people who are susceptible to the physical element. If they're not susceptible to it, meaning you're probably bringing him on a Kafka team to just take advantage of his bleed effect skill and then his ult, which gives a vulnerability deep up to the single target. In those scenarios, you're going to have to definitely do a large amount of investment, to which I guess people would be right in that regard. But if you're only going to run him to knock heads off shoulders with the break effect style, then he has the cheapest investment. Like honestly, just leave him like this. You definitely don't need this bad boy because this is only good if you have him at E6. At E6, he starts doing 8% of his bleed dot damage every time he does a freaking Gomu Gomu pistol punch. Can't think of the name of it right now, but that's gonna be this bad boy right here. Basically, you attack 6 times before doing his uppercut, and all 6 times he's gonna trigger an 8% dot, I believe. Let me make sure I read that correctly. The bleed status will immediately deal damage 1 time equal to 8% of the original damage for every hit of the direct punch already unleashed during the current enhanced basic attack. So yeah, basically if he punches up to 6 times, thanks to this little perk right here, we're looking at a 40% in total reproc of both the bleed dots, which can get absolutely nuts. But if you don't have that, this is not really worth the investment. It's not. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole unless you have E6. But then you might still have to unlock this just because you need that extra 8% effect hit rate. Anyways, guys, what I recommend doing, obviously fill up the attack poll, fill up the effect hit rates, and priority wise down here, you're gonna want to build this up, and this up. You don't even really have to touch this unless you're trying to really build him for damage outside of break effect, because that's a whole entirely different play style. I'm gonna make a separate guide for that play style. Anyways, now that that's been discussed, and again, excuse me for being like super hype. I'm like, I just came straight into this video like off a high from playing with Luca and being excited. This is the other thing I'm going to recommend. You run break effect, full break effect set, obviously, and you have a couple of options right here. You don't have to run this. I like it because generally it pairs well with my Kafka, giving her another 8% attack, as well as if you're running 3-dot characters on one team, this is really good. But you have this as an option, you have this as an option, Space Sealing Station, and then of course you have this if you need the extra 10% effect hit rate, which in some cases you will. Speaking of which, how much effect hit rate do you need? He has one of them kits where everything is 100% base chance, and a rule of thumb, if it's 100% base chance, minimum you need 40% effect hit rate. And if you get a 40% effect hit rate, you're looking at about an 84% chance of applying all his debuffs to the hardest content in the game. And then you're looking at a 95% chance against the 30% effect resistance mobs, elite mobs and lower. But ideally, you want to be at about 50% effect hit rate. And then the perfect amount would be 60%, but I think that's overkill. If you're at a 90% chance to apply debuffs, it's more than good enough. Again, I've never seen a Welt miss anything. My Welt sits at he sits at 42.3. I shit you not, I've never seen him miss a single debuff. So I think 40 to 50, you're looking solid for in terms of the ballpark of effect hit rate you want to shoot for. Other than that, bro, stack that break effect on them. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, oh, but there's a cap on the bleed damage. And then I bet if I asked them, oh, what's the cap? Oh, I don't know, I just know there's a cap. Oh, okay, yeah, grass is green outside, I got on a maroon shirt. Anything else you want to point out that we don't already know, genius? With that being said, guys, there is a cap, but the cap is incredibly hard to achieve, to the point where you can just pretty much build as much break effect as you want to on them against the elites and bosses. Like I have 170, if I got 180, he'd still do a little bit more damage. The reaching that cap is like plot armor. I think they're eventually going to drop some type of boss who maybe has so much HP that he's probably going to force you to reach that cap. But until then, don't stress about reaching a cap for break effect on break characters, especially because their initial break damage is so freaking high, and that doesn't have a cap. So yeah, I have 170% on my boy. If we go into the substats, again, you want to try and get as much effect hit rate that'll get you between that 40 to 50% ballpark mark. Obviously, you need enough speed. You need to get to 134 speed, and then you want to stack as much break effect. It's that simple. For the body, you can either go effect hit rate if you have dog shit effect hit rate substats, or you go attack percent for the break effect build. Speed boot 100%, you need to, again, 134 speed or higher. And then we're gonna go physical damage right here. This will increase his damage of his regular dot, his bleed dot, as well as his whole kit. And then finally right here, break effect for sure, obviously, no question. That's the whole purpose of the build. Break their shield, do a bunch of damage. This kid, I have to mention this, guys. This kid, he completely caught me by surprise with his performance. I thought he was going to be a character who was completely trash without Kafka. And as you saw in the footage, this dude is capable of just shredding the shit out of bosses susceptible to the physical element. And if you have a Silver Wolf where she can manipulate his weakness onto other bosses, all the more better. This guy is capable of dealing like 200,000 damage by himself. It's absurd because he breaks their shield for like 50k or 40k. Then he uppercuts, and that re-triggers both the break effect bleed dot and his regular dot. That's like another 40k. And then bleed dot lasts for 2 turns, and then when they come up, 50k again, and the next turn 50k again, and then he uppercuts him again. It's like, holy, he is cracked, bro. This 4-star unit blew me. It's not because I love him, because this kid, all right, might be a little biased. Nah, seriously, he's cracked, guys. He might be one of those cracked 4-stars I've ever played with. And if you re-trigger his dot with Kafka, bro, I'm not kidding. You're looking well past 300,000 damage. This shit is absolutely ludicrous. And I already knew this. I theory crafted all of this beforehand, but it's so cool seeing it in game. Anyways, I am gonna make a guide explaining Luca's kit in detail. This was more just to show you guys. You've been asking, what about break effect Luca? What about break effect Luca? So I wanted to get this guide out as fast, or not this guide, this showcase out, just to show you a little bit of snippet of them. I'm still working on some pieces to finish up a well and proper guide for how you play him on both play styles, break effect Luca, and then the the focus on the dot, and even crit value Luca. Again, you know how the motherfuckers always call me crazy because their brain's too tiny, they can't comprehend my intelligence. My philosophy is, if the character doesn't need effect hit rate and they're not breaking shields, then you can't build effect hit rate or break effect, right? So the only thing left to build is crit rate and crit damage. And the thing is, Luca is really good with Sampo's light cone if he's not breaking shields, because Sampo's light cone gives him a lot of effect hit rate, especially if you have it at higher refinements. It gives him enough effect hit rate to where you can focus on building crit rate, crit damage, attack percent, and speed in his sub stats. It's the same concept as Kafka. But again, we'll save that for another video. It's going to be an in-depth guide for Luca, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was a lot of talking more so than showcasing, but again, it was because I don't have all the pieces of the puzzle. So I just wanted to take him into the MOC, show you guys his potential as a break effect character, and then follow up with more videos in the future. As always, thanks for watching. I hope I brought you some value. Catch you on the flip side.